Okay, this is seventh grade. This is lesson 1-1. This is on page 9. And we're talking about integers and their opposites. So I'm on page 10 now, and they give us an example here. It says combine opposites quantities to make 0. And so it says, what is it? Alexis was shopping on the ground floor of a mall. When she realized she left her phone in her car, she walks down the 6 floors to her car into the underground parking garage. How far will Alexis walk to get back to the ground floor? And it says use integers to explain. So it looks like this is the ground floor right here. And then she walks down 6 floors, and so this would be the ground floor. And then it says the integer 0 represents the location of the ground floor. So this would be 0, obviously. And this would be -6. And it says -6 represents the distance in floors Alexis walks down to her car. So they're going to be talking about absolute value, and let me explain how that works here. I'll grab a sticky note. Whenever you see the 2 little vertical lines like they've done right here, if I put a number right here, let's say it's 3, and then you see this, that will be read as the absolute value of 3. And so I'm going to draw a little number line right here, and I'll put 0 right here, and I'll put, let's say, 2 right here, and a -2, and let's say a -4, and then right here would be a 4. So when we talk about absolute value, it's important you understand this. We're talking about how far it is from 0 on the number line. And so when we're talking about distance, it's always positive. So the absolute value of 3 equals 3. And so here is 3 on the number line. How far is that from 0? 1, 2, 3. Okay? But if I had the absolute value, if I said, what's the absolute value of -3 equal? Okay, well, here's -3, right? How far is -3 from 0? 1, 2, 3. That's how far it is from 0. It's also 3. So absolute value is always positive. It's always positive. Because they're just asking, hey, how far is that from 0? So it's always positive. And, so in this example here, it says the absolute value of 6 represents the distance in floors she'll walk up to get back to the ground floor. And then it says -6 represents the position after she walks to her car. Remember, her car is on the ground floor. So she walked down -6. Okay, she's 6 floors below ground level, and ground level is 0. And then it says the absolute value of -6, and remember absolute value is positive, represents the distance in floors that she walks down to her car. How many floors did she walk down?
6.
She walked down 6 floors. So we're talking about distance. You wouldn't say she walked down -6 floors. You would just say she walked down 6 floors if we're talking about absolute value. Okay? So let's look at try it down below. Xavier climbs 9 feet up into an apple tree. What integer represents the direction and how far he will climb to get back down to the ground? So here's this tree, okay, and here's the ground, and he walked up 9 feet, or climbed up 9 feet. You don't walk up a tree unless there's a ladder, I guess. And the question is, what integer represents the direction and how far he will climb to get back down to the ground? And so the integer represents, he's going to go back down. So you could say -6, or gosh, I don't know if they would want absolute value of -6 because it's another just 6 floors or 6 feet down. Yeah.
Then it'd be -9.
Oh, I said 6, didn't I? Yeah, 9. Thank you for correcting me. -9. All right. So he's going to go up 9 feet and back down. You could say the absolute value of -9. And then it says the integer 0 represents what? The ground. Okay. That convinced me. How are the absolute values of opposite integers related? How are the absolute values of opposite integers related? Well, let's look at 2 of them. How about -6 and then 6. What's the absolute value of 6? 6. What's the absolute value of -6? Remember what I said? It's always what? Positive. So that's also 6. So I think the answer they're looking for is they are the same. Okay? Absolute value was always positive. Let's look at example 2 here, top of page 11. Samuel has $20 in his savings account before he makes a deposit of $160. After 2 weeks, he withdraws $160. How did Samuel's savings account balance change? Well, he had 20, and then he put in 160. That gave him 180. And then after 2 weeks, he spent the 160, so he goes right back to 20. Okay. The amounts deposited and withdrawn are opposite quantities and combined to make 0. So if you combine 160 with, you're adding it together, a -160, whoops, there's a 0, that's going to equal 0. So when you combine opposite integers, you'll always end up with 0. Just like if I put -12, I'll put that in parentheses, plus 12, it's always going to equal 0. Questions on this so far? Yeah, Mr. Moore?
What if it was like -12 plus like 13?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So Mr. Moore asked, what if it's -12 plus 13? So I'm just going to write this down so you guys can see it this way. A -12, and I'm going to put it in parentheses. That kind of makes things a little more clear. Plus 13 equals. Well, let's take a look at this. I'm going to draw a number line. Let me zoom in so you guys can see it a little bit better here. And I'm just going to put a 0 right there. So we're starting at -12, right? So I'm going to go, let's say right here, I'm going to say this is -12. And then we're going to add 13 to that. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's going to be 1. So -12 plus 13 would be 1. Does that make sense, Mr. Moore?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then if it was like +10, it'd be -2, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so the question was, what if it was +10? So let's look at -12 plus 10 equals. Well, I could draw a number line to help me out if I want. Here's 0. Here's -12. And I'm adding 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so as he pointed out, we're going to end up at -2. Okay? Questions? All right. Not worried about the try it. Example 3. Zoom back out a little bit. Yeah, this kind of touches on what you guys were just asking me. It says one winter morning, the temperature was a -2 degrees. By 11 a.m., the temperature had decreased by 3 degrees. At 4 p.m., the temperature reached 0 centigrade. What integer represents the temperature change from 11 to 4 p.m.? So you start at -2, and then a -3 represents the temperature decrease, so you move it 3 more units to the left because it's decreasing. Okay? The temperature has a change of -3. So it was at -2, you can see it right here, and then it decreased even more. So it's going to be at -5. And then it says, next, move 5 units to the right to show that the temperature then increased to 0. And that's what they have in the blue here. Now it's gone from -5 right here all the way back to 0. And so the temperature had a total change of 5 degrees. All right. So let me show it to you in sort of an equation form. If I said -5 plus -6 equals, here's my number line. I'll just put a 0 right here, and let's say this is -5. Okay, I'm adding -6. Which way am I going to go? I'm going to go to the left. I'm getting further from 0. The numbers are getting smaller. So I'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to end up at -11. Make sense? Okay. Try it. Yeah, I'm going to circle that one. I want you guys to give that one a whirl. So make sure you answer that one. So I'm on page 12 now. And they give you an example here. It says an integer n. So n is an integer. We don't know what it is. And its opposite, -n, combined to make 0. So if I wrote something like z plus, and I'll put it in parentheses, a -z, they're always going to equal 0. The integer and its opposite always equal 0. Could even be true in fraction form. If I put 3/4 plus a -3/4, it's going to equal 0. I think you guys understand that. So they give you a little example there. So do you understand the essential question, how are integers and their opposites related? I'm going to circle that one. They add up to 0. So I've answered that one for you. Number 2 says reasoning. In order for an atom to have a 0 charge, every proton which has a positive charge, every proton is positive, must be matched with an electron because all electrons have a negative charge. And it says a helium atom has 2 protons, so that's 2 positive protons, and 2 electrons. And explain why the helium atom has a 0 charge. Well, put it in your own words. I do want you to explain that. It's got 2 protons and 2 electrons. When combined, it's 0 or 0 charge because we're talking about electrons and protons and that sort of thing. All right, number 3, explain how to use a number line to show that opposite quantities combine to make 0. Well, so I'm just going to give you 2 because everybody's going to come up with a different one. I want you to show me by using 8 and -8. And you'll just draw your own number line and you'll show me how they combine to add up to 0. Questions? No? Okay. Number 4 says Marcus dives from the surface of the ocean to a reef 18 meters below sea level. And then it says, I'm going to circle this one, I want you to do it. What integer represents Marcus's location relative to the surface? Okay, so here's the surface of the water. Here's his boat. Okay. And he dives in. And he's swimming down. Okay. And he goes down 18 meters. 18 meters. It's a terrible 8. So really negative 18. And then it says, what integer represents Marcus's location relative to the surface? This is the surface. What do you think the surface of the water would represent? What would it be? Yeah. It'd be 0. So relative to 0, what would it be? Well, I already wrote it down there. It would be negative 18. Okay. And then it says, how far does Marcus have to go to return to the surface? It would be 18. I should put negative 18m and 18m for meters, because that's what we're talking about. It went meters. So it's important to label the numbers, which I forgot to do for a moment there. All right, number 5. Give that one a whirl. Number 6. Try that one. You're combining the scores, positives and negatives here. Next page, number 13. Let me see here. Max spent $50, had no money left. He had before his purchase. Okay. Answer number 7. Answer number 8. And number 9. Number 10, Carolyn says that point A and point B represent opposite integers. Here's A and here's B. Okay. What is the opposite of the integer represented by point A and by point B? Let me see here. So I'm just going to write it like this. A opposite equals, and then you tell me what the opposite of A is. Here's A. And I'm going to put B opposite equals, and you tell me what the opposite of B is, and here's B. All right? So make sure you answer that one. And that's essentially answering A. So 10A, just fill that out. B, scratch out, worried about that. 11, circle 11. Circle 12. Um, 13. Yeah. So just make sure you reference this chart right here. The sale, option 1, and the markdown. Okay. 14, what values do x and y have if the absolute value of x is 16 and the absolute value of y is 16? And when x and y are combined, they equal 0. Yeah, I'll make this one worth a stick. Your answer has to make sense. Okay, that one's worth a stick if you get it right. So I'll just pull sticks and see who can get it. Number 15 says, write a situation that could be represented by the opposite of negative 42. You guys could use money, you could use distance, all kinds of ways you could answer number 15. 16, not worried about. Down to the bottom, circle 17, multiple choice, 18, and multiple choice. Okay? Questions on any of these, you guys? All's quiet. All right, 20-minute lesson, not too bad. I'm going to end this.